I'm going to share with you a piece of work from it's actually one of my most recent pieces of work on J2E, and it's from one of my children in my class. He's autistic, he's got ADHD. Writing is really not his thing. He doesn't like it. He won't do it. He shuts off. But actually, we kind of came around to the fact that he could use J2 Write. He knows how to incorporate images. He knew what to do. And this is what he created for me. So it's actually the biggest bit of writing that he's ever done. He's also got speech in there. And just getting him to overcome the barrier of getting what's in his head onto paper by just incorporating J2E in the writing, and him being able to add in his pictures has been amazing. So actually now he's asking to write more and more, which is lovely. And then he's able to save it in his folder and share it with me as his teacher, and he can get feedback on it. One of the biggest impacts for me is being able to tailor it for our children who necessarily might not like writing, and just overcoming that barrier. I am Sam Green. I teach Year 5 at High Wyche Primary. I've only been a teacher for 3 years. I did my NQT year in Year 4, and then I've moved up to Year 5. And I'm just here to kind of talk about how J2E has kind of enhanced our curriculum in school, but also the benefits of using it remote learning and online learning. So we're a one form entry school. We're not very big. We're a local village school. We have quite a few children on the pupil premium register, which can kind of pose a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but we have managed to get around it, especially in terms of our lockdown learning. At the moment, we're trying to kind of reinvent our curriculum. So we've been looking for ways, which is why we got in contact with J2E, of how to enhance our curriculum and kind of bring it into the 21st century. So bring it up and reinvent it and make our cross-curricular links and have all the resources in one place, which is why it got us onto our J2E. I think our ICT coordinator got in touch because we haven't really had anything in place that provided everything. So it provided the lesson plans, the resources, the tools to complete our ICT curriculum in the first instance. We'd been following the Hearts for Learning ICT curriculum, which had been great in providing the kind of topic and the outlay, but we never really had the resources to follow it up. So if it said, right, you need to use Scratch, we'd use Scratch, but we had no actual training on it. And then we also had to find the other platforms to facilitate that lesson plan. So she got in touch with you, I think, last Christmas, and kind of said to you, look, we need something to help us with our ICT curriculum. We need kind of a one-stop shop if you have it. And then you came in to do our inset day in the January, and it just kind of opened our eyes that actually J2E isn't just for ICT. And we've really, at the moment, especially with the lockdown and the remote learning, we've used it to its full advantage. It's really helped with our ICT and using all of the platforms on there, especially like the stop animation and the J2 Write and the present one, and the clear lesson plans. So it kind of gave us a start, because as a staff kind of teaching body, ICT was a kind of thing for us that we weren't confident in, and we needed something that we could go to and everything was there for us. So that's why we got into J2E. So we'd used Seesaw prior to getting the J2E, I think from the September to the Christmas prior to when we bought the J2E. And it just wasn't very user-friendly. We found that we didn't really know what we were doing. We couldn't navigate it. And then as a school, we had a really big push on GDPR. And I think it just didn't meet our GDPR guidelines as a school. So in terms of when we were looking for our next product, we needed something that was within our GDPR guidelines and that we were able to use in school and know that it was being used safely and monitored, and that no other kind of outsourcing was used within it. So we could keep our children safe and keep ourselves safe. But in terms of, we liked Seesaw because we kind of liked the whole, children were able to share their work. We could do a whole kind of school outlook on it, but actually J2E was able to do that. And it was great that also it was kind of it's a local business, it's a local support for us. So if anything does go wrong, we obviously can have you in for our training for us. And I know that looking forward, the amount that we've used it and we've implemented it, I think a lot of our TAs and support staff are kind of hoping to have training on J2E as well. So that was our kind of biggest push in getting it. So we started using it in the January. So we had our inset day on the Monday as staff. It was just teaching staff. And then we started to implement it in our ICT lessons that half term. So we linked it with the Hearts for Learning scheme of work, and we kind of did a kind of slow transition from using that to using J2E. But actually J2E kind of ticked all of the boxes on the Hearts for Learning stuff that we came away from that a lot quicker than we needed to, because everything was there. All of the resources, the lesson plans, the activities, the platforms for the children to use. Actually, by the February half term, because we originally planned for the Easter, by February half term, all the children knew it, they used it, we used it for ICT. We were able to assess using it as well, and we'd got good feedback from all the teaching staff. So we were able to really go forward in then exploring the other things that J2E had to offer, like using the J2 Write for, I used it that year in my class because I had a few reluctant writers, so I'd use the J2 Write to do their big write, so they wouldn't write it, they'd type it, and then they could share it with me as their teacher. And I think we kind of had a lot of autonomy as teachers in terms of, do you know what, just play around with it, because I think that's the best way of learning how to use J2E, is just getting on and having a go and seeing how it can enhance your curriculum and in which ways. So J2E has kind of been really helpful in providing, we had the initial training on it, so we had an inset day. We had the full morning on it as a whole staff body, so just getting to know J2E. And then the afternoon we came back with Alistair in our year group partners. So we did 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 1 and 2. And we were able to plan then using our curriculum maps to match out how we could use J2E. So it wasn't necessarily just the ICT, but how could we get our art links in there, or our literacy links, or where could the maths come from, like the J2 Blast and the arithmetic on there. So we were able to sit for the afternoon with Alistair and then our kind of year partner and just kind of map out how J2 Easy could really help and enrich our curriculum, and not just in terms of how could we use it in lesson, but how have we been able to use it in a booster group, or how could we set homework on it, how could we reply to learning, either by commenting or replying verbally through voice recording, and how could we differentiate and adapt it for kind of all of our learners, because as a school we do have a kind of diverse range of children. We've got a few heavily SEN children, and we've got a few new children who started where English isn't their first language. So how could we use that? So that was really helpful in the beginning. And then all the time, especially Lorraine, our coordinator, she's been in regular contact with yourself, and it's very you reply quite quickly, and the replies are always really useful and helpful, and no question is too silly. I think sometimes we feel like, oh, we shouldn't ask that, but actually you don't mind, and you're very forthcoming in helping us and providing us with that training. So it's been really helpful. The biggest thing for us when we bought into J2E was our ICT planning, and never could we have predicted last January that we'd be using it for our remote learning. We obviously bought it at the right time, because come the last Easter, so the first lockdown, our children were logged on, they knew what to do. So we've been able to set work for the children and train up our support staff in terms of them being able to provide feedback, and also them having that contact with the children, because as much as we're their teacher and we get that time using Microsoft Teams, our TAs sometimes miss out on that because they're not face to face. So actually through J2E, our support staff have been able to have that constant contact with the children as well during lockdown. This is an example of one of my pupil premium children. So we provided him with a laptop in the first lockdown just for his online learning, his homework, and he's continued to use it. So sometimes he'll choose to do the work in J2E, so he'll click the green eye on the left and select using J2E. However, sometimes he just prefers to do it on paper, and then upload it to me so I can see it and provide him with his feedback. So in the learning conversation, I provide him some good feedback or some next steps, just as we would in school. And then you can see on the side here, he's also shared it with Mrs. Oatman. So Mrs. Oatman's our TA. So actually she's been able to get that contact with this child. That's what they miss out on, the TAs. As teachers, we get that 15 minutes time every week with the children on one-to-one calls, but our TAs don't. So actually J2E's been invaluable in providing that for us, which has been amazing. As a teacher, you don't train to not see your children. You train to be in a classroom with your children and give them that feedback at the point of learning. And I think that's the massive thing about lockdown, is that's the biggest disadvantage, is they don't get to have that feedback at the point of learning, whereas J2E in the learning conversation section allows you to record your voice, so you're able to give feedback personalized. So this just blew me away, because she did it using some of the stuff on obviously her iPad, and then she uploaded it to J2E, and also then I was able, I don't know if it will let me show you, to provide like feedback, but voice feedback. So I was able to kind of give her a round of applause and make her feel good. That was the best thing for me. She was so proud of herself, because she not only used her ICT skills to create this stop animation as it goes across the screen, but she'd been able to upload it to J2E, share it on shared files in J2E. So she was able to share it with the class, and I was then able to share it with our head teacher on J2E. So it's a kind of a whole school platform for celebrating good learning. And then on top of that, provide her with that voice feedback. So not only just typing a comment, but actually giving her my voice and giving her my feedback was just invaluable. This time round in the second lockdown, it's been amazing. Like, every teacher's on board, every child's on board. We all know what we're doing. So from the 6th of January, we were able to hit the ground running in terms of providing the children with their work, giving them feedback, timetables, the lot. So I always put everything on J2E, just like every teacher in the class. So if we go into today's folder, for example, I'm able to create my timetable. So my timetable's in there. So my timetable's in there with all of the stuff that they need, wherever the links and resources are. I can group their work, so there's folders for maths, and then inside that I can differentiate work using the folders. So 1-star, 2-star, 3-star. Afternoon readers, so like intervention stuff, I'm able to put in there, some good help sheets, and then using the share all function. So I share it, I just click share and then share it with my class, because they're grouped. It goes straight onto the shared files desktop. So the children know to go into shared files in the morning, and all of their work is in there for them. And if they've got any questions, they normally just start a little learning conversation. Or we've been able to kind of do some fun things, like London Zoo, just before half term, asked them kind of, how many legs do you think there are in London Zoo? So we were able to, as a class, despite doing remote learning, actually have a go at answering the question through a learning conversation. So the whole class got involved, and we were able to do something really fun like that, which I think's so beneficial during remote learning, for the children to still feel that classroom ethos, which was really lovely. Home learning certificates I'm able to share on J2E by sharing it with individual children. So again, I just use the share function and type in their username, so they're able to get that to their desktop. And other teachers are able to share folders. So for example, it was Pancake Day, French Pancake Day, earlier in the month. So our language coordinator could make a folder with loads of resources and then share it with each of the classes, which was lovely. So that's how we've been using J2E in lockdown, and honestly, it's just been a godsend. So moving forward with J2E and our subscription, I think we'll definitely continue with the ICT. It's become embedded now, and I think as the children move up the school, we'll start seeing the real benefits of it, and how much it's really helped to organise and enhance our ICT learning. I know our year 4 teachers, because they have to meet the requirements for the multiplication check in the spring, I think it is, they've been using the J2 Blast. So the children go on it every day, I think for 15 minutes, and it's just quick fire times table questions. So that's embedded in school every morning, 15 minutes. Every child in year 4 logs onto J2 Blast, and they're able to practice their times tables and recall. I know as a year 5 teacher that the arithmetic section on J2E is really useful in terms of just quick fire questions. So that's kind of the resources on J2E that are already there that we'll keep using. And in terms of moving forward with it, I think the ease of being able to upload a PDF or a document and then being able to share it with the children, we'll definitely continue using it for homework. So the children don't have to have a book anymore. It's saving paper, which is great, saving the planet. And we're definitely looking for ways, because we are reinventing our curriculum, as we say, and we're looking for the enrichment. We're looking for cross-curricular activities. So how can we use J2E for ICT, but how can we also tick off our DT skills? So how could we use the kind of animation side to tick off both skills? So I think moving forward, we're just looking for more opportunities to link J2E to other areas of our curriculum and really embed them, so that by the time the children get up to upper Key Stage 2, 5 and 6, they are so good on it and they know and they reap the benefits from it.